The great battle had ended, but the silent gray dawn revealed that the war for pure survival was only just beginning. From the shadows of the opposing cliffs, the predators emerged, drawn by the stench of scorched flesh and spilled blood that saturated the valley air. The protector was down. He was completely still, a mountain of flesh paralyzed by his grievous wounds. The king was left utterly, terrifyingly defenseless. Seeing the colossal prey immobile, the alpha raptor shrieked the order, and the hunt began. In a desperate surge of loyalty, the small Suko made an impossible decision. He would shield the giant who had saved him. His first attempt at defense was pathetically feeble, a hot stone tossed harmlessly against the alpha's hide, serving only as a grim invitation for death. He trembled, his small body shaking violently, but he held his ground, mimicking his protector's posture in a naive, heartbreaking gesture of defiance.
Never sleeps.
Provoked by the impudence, the alpha beast lunged, its jaws wide, ready to extinguish the stubborn appetizer in a single snap. But a king's instinct never truly sleeps. In a blur of motion, the ruined left hand, the magma hand, snapped shut, the terrible, searing heat engulfing the attacker's throat and searing its flesh. A burning, inescapable trap. It was the agonizing feedback from that very action, the fire in his own fist, that finally dragged Kong from unconsciousness, unleashing a primal, earth-shaking fury. The entire pack of hunters froze,
returned,
sliding to a halt in the mud.
but it brought no peace.
And in that sudden, violent silence,
only a full accounting
Suko
of the
realized
cost.
he was still alive. Kong roared, pushing his smoldering hand deep into the earth to leverage himself up, defying the impossible agony of his broken and burned body. Even shattered, the king was too terrifying. The scavengers shrieked, snatching their dead and hastily retreated back into the shadows of the cliffs. Silence returned to the valley, but this silence brought no peace. It brought only a full, devastating accounting of the cost. He lifted his right arm. It hung limp, shattered, and useless, revealing the devastating truth of his new vulnerability. Roaring in frustration, he slammed his left fist into the ground.
He had saved this
but the
land from
impact
one monster,
only brought white,
only to
hot
leave it
agony,
broken for its true
a sizzle of
inhabitants.
burning earth, and a horrific reminder. Both his hands were now compromised. He looked upon his oasis, his sanctuary, now desecrated, choked by the colossal obsidian corpse of his enemy. The river, the artery of the valley, was dead, dammed into a stagnant sulfurous pool on one side, and reduced to a dry, cracked bed on the other. Everywhere his eyes landed, there was proof of annihilation. Lives extinguished by molten rock and suffocating ash. This valley, once a lush paradise, was now just an open grave, reeking of decay. He had saved this land from one monster, only to realize he had left it broken and barren for its true helpless inhabitants. Even the few trees still standing were scorched, their roots boiled. The food supply was completely gone, and the water, the valley's lifeblood, was now a toxic, simmering pool poisoned by death itself. He recognized the cascading problem. This valley and everything in it would die if he did not act. Dragging his ruined body, he moved on 3 limbs, pulling his shattered arm through the mud. Every single step a monumental trial of will. He lurched toward the riverbank, retrieving the only thing that passed for a weapon, a massive obsidian tooth from the very monster he had slain. Plunging his smoldering left hand into the clean current, he roared as steam erupted from the water. Even pain could be a tool, if wielded by a strong enough will. He He used the cool flowing water to soothe his acid burns, a desperate, primitive attempt at healing himself. The orphan watched his protector and learned, following him to the clean current, also seeking the water to recover his own small strength. The broken arm needed a splint. It was a liability, and he knew exactly where to find the materials. Using his teeth and his one agonizingly damaged hand, he tore a massive elastic sinew from the Parasaurus corpse. He sat, grit his teeth, and carefully set the broken limb against his torso, using the sinew to bind it tightly to his chest, fashioning a crude but effective sling. A broken king is still a king, and this king had work to do.
To heal the lamb,
The surviving
he
herd
would have to
panicked
break
at his movement,
himself
their
further.
trauma causing them to view him as just another larger threat. But his responding roar wasn't a challenge. It was a blunt command, and their animal instincts understood it. They obeyed. He ignored them, turning his back on the nervous beasts, and walked directly toward the massive obsidian dam. He placed his single good shoulder, the one not ravaged by acid, against the colossal obsidian wall. He pushed, his muscles screaming, his legs driving into the mud. But it was useless. The multi-ton, cold-fused corpse didn't budge an inch. He roared in pure frustration. Sheer brute force was simply not enough. Suko's feeble, loyal attempt to push against Kong's leg made the Titan pause and gave him a new idea. If he could not move it, he would break it. He drew the obsidian tooth. He climbed the slippery dam, found a deep fissure from the initial thermal shock, and wedged his new tool deep inside the crack. To heal the land, he understood he would have to break himself even further. He used his burnt, ruined fist as a hammer, slamming it down on the tooth, each agonizing impact punctuated by a roar of pain. A large section of the obsidian corpse finally shattered, and the pent-up, desperate water immediately found its escape, surging through the new gap. But he didn't stop. He continued to hammer the makeshift wedge again and again, ignoring the flesh he was tearing from his own hand. Under the combined pressure of the relentless water and the terrible will of the king, the great dam finally, catastrophically, broke. Life's flow, clean and pure, had been restored. He collapsed onto the bank, utterly exhausted, his left hand now openly bleeding from the brutal effort to save the valley. Hearing the rush of clean water, the surviving dinosaurs cautiously moved toward the sound of hope. The broken-horned Triceratops, the leader, drank first, and seeing it was safe, the entire starving herd rushed in to quench their desperate thirst. The lead beast finished, looked at the collapsed Titan, and gave a low, grumbling grunt. Not a threat, but a clear, primal acknowledgement. They had water, but as Kong looked at the scorched trees,
He was their
he knew
shield,
water could not save them
their
from starvation.
architect, their way
Water
forward.
was not enough. This valley was now a graveyard. He roared once more, a deep, commanding sound that drew the attention of the entire drinking herd. He hauled himself up to his feet and began to walk, leading the way out of the dead valley.
A new
He did not
home.
look back. They
A
had
new
to
hope.
follow. They hesitated, afraid to leave, afraid to stay. But the lead Triceratops made its decision. It would follow the wounded king. A king does not just rule, a king leads. The Great Migration began, and the ascent up the cliff face was an agonizing trial for his three-limbed, broken body. He clawed at the cliff, his burnt hand digging into the stone, refusing to fall. His will was proving stronger than the rock itself. The smaller, low-profile beasts passed easily, but but the massive, long-necked Brachiosaurus struggled desperately with the narrow path. A juvenile slipped, its high-pitched, panicked cry echoing dangerously through the canyon as it scrabbled at the edge. Kong, already near the top, turned back, bracing his good shoulder against a massive, loose boulder beside the path. With a final, agonizing, roaring effort, he dislodged the stone, sending it tumbling down to create a new, stable foothold. He was their shield, their architect, their only way forward. Reaching the summit, he stood for a moment, looking back one last time. His former oasis, the graveyard he'd created, was gone forever. But as he turned to face the unknown, he saw something he hadn't dared to expect. A new, untouched valley. A new home. A new hope. He began the slow descent, and Suko, seeing the protector was steady,
But the gravest
climbed onto his
wounds
left
are not
shoulder,
always the ones
his
that
new,
bleed.
familiar perch. Smelling the fresh, damp vegetation, the starving herd roared in pure, unbridled delight and rushed past their savior. They charged toward the clear blue lake, plunging in, celebrating their relief from thirst and heat. The other herbivores immediately began to feast on the lush green foliage. Paradise had been found.
The serpent
herd
was
safe.
dead.
The small Suko, now an active provider, brought back his first offering, a large cluster of ripe berries for the fallen protector. Kong looked at the child, then at the fruit, and slowly picked up a single berry. A quiet, simple gesture of